Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for being with us. We begin tonight with a pledge to look into traffic calming in South Windsor after a tragic death sounds the alarm on speeding in our city once again. CBC's Dale Molnar has more.
73-year-old Rosnanievich was killed in his home Sunday when a minivan came crashing through the front window. The house sits on a curve on Riviera Drive in South Windsor, and her grandchildren say people tried to drive around the curve too quickly. Ward 10 Councillor Jim Morrison paid a visit to the family today. He provided them with this sign before the crash, and he now says he will look into what can be done to curb the speeding problem.
Traffic calming is needed all over the city, and we are doing projects nearby here. And certainly I would look at expediting whatever measures we can do on a street like that. I'll be talking to the neighbors to see if they're wanting that. I don't believe they've provided any petitions to this at this point, but certainly I could certainly look at doing something, and I would make sure I expedite it.
Riviera Drive resident Miranda Arfiero agrees people drive too fast on the street and some measures should be taken.
Maybe put the speed bumps on the streets, maybe put the speed limit down a little bit, have undercover too. There's speeders everywhere in this city and crashes every single day, and it's getting out of hand.
Larry Bennett lives around the corner on Rankin. He also wants something done, but says it's not an easy fix.
I look at the speed bumps as well, that if you don't see that speed bump and you are doing a little excessive speed, that you could lose control and end up in somebody's lawn. So I don't know how to calm the traffic other than maybe putting up more stop signs, but then more stop signs are more frustrating.
Morrison is a proponent of photo radar.
We will be getting some. The locations and the timing has not been determined yet.
Morrison says the speed limits in residential neighborhoods like this should go down to 40 kilometers per hour. He says he'll be looking at more options in the new year, but there wouldn't likely be any changes until spring. Windsor police say the crash is still under investigation and charges are undetermined at this time. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
So you're looking to buy a home in Windsor, Essex, and you're on a budget. So how do you get the most bang for your buck? Well, here's what you need to know. As of November, the average sale price in the region is $584,452. That's higher than same time last year, but pretty consistent with the last few months. So where should you look if you're hoping to spend the least amount of money? If you're shopping in Windsor, your best three options are Central Windsor, with price averages around the $400,000 mark, downtown around $396,000, and your cheapest area to buy, West Windsor, with averages around $363,000. Compare that to the most expensive area in the city, South Windsor, averaging at $670,000 for a home. These numbers were compiled by Maggie Chen, the president of the Windsor-Essex County Association of Realtors.
It's amazing thing is that, you can still buy single-family homes for under $400,000. So it's fantastic news for the first-time home buyers and anyone who works within a budget.
If you're looking in the county, Wheatley will get you your lowest options with an average sale price of around $474,000, compared to the hottest prices in the region, Lakeshore, with an average price point of $840,000. Now, if you want to stretch that dollar and get the biggest home that you can within your budget, you're going to want to look at square footage. And Central Windsor is where you'll get the best price point for that, averaging at $314 per square foot. If you're on a budget, you're probably also looking to avoid competition. But even with the lull in the market, there's still plenty of it.
Bidding wars are happening anywhere, everywhere, at any price point.
If you want to dodge those, Chen recommends two things. Look for homes that are appropriately listed. Your agent should help with that. And look for homes that have been sitting on the market for a long time. In the city, if you're looking at the areas where homes might take the longest to sell, South Windsor has the longest average at 25 days to sell. Across the region, it's Essex at 47 days. As for when to make a move, well, realtors say the time is now. With interest rates dipping, they say it's a good time to buy, especially before the spring when the market is expected to heat back up once again. In other local news, Christmas is just weeks away, and if you've been out to buy a fresh new tree recently, you may have paid more than you did last year. As Pratyush Dayal reports, climate change is playing a role.
We're always worried with the weather. That's our main thing. You can do everything right, and the weather can just take you for a loop.
In 20 years of operating Bastine Christmas Tree Farm in Essex, owner Ovid Bastine has seen the effects of a changing climate up close.
The summers are hotter. Less rain, less precipitation. So yeah, that's a trend. We used to have like 3 or 4 good years, bad year. We find it's more bad years than good years a lot of times as far as the weather goes.
This year was one of the good years, but to combat the uncertainty, Bastine has been taking steps.
The biggest thing we learned is to grow different kind of trees. We had to find trees that were made to take this kind of climate.
That alone can't ensure the success.
These trees need a lot of fertilizer. You throw down fertilizer, and if you don't get a rain, your fertilizer is wasted. So you may say it rains, and we find it just more sporadic, if I can put it that way. The weather is just not the same as it used to be.
To keep up with the fickle rains, Bastine now buys a coated fertilizer so it doesn't evaporate and lasts longer, but it doubles their costs. The uncertainty of climate change means the input cost will also increase. That includes your herbicides, your pesticides and such, which will also mean the end price of the trees will go up. But for this couple, the rising price isn't a wrinkle in their Christmas joy. For the past 25 years, it has been the family tradition to cut down fresh trees.
Pricing obviously has gone up just like everything else, but it's all goes hand in hand.
Us. We'll still come out and get a fresh tree every year.
We're still going to come out through the years. We like it.
The Canadian Christmas Trees Association says some operators are consequently selling trees at a 5% increase.
Heat domes and frost and drought can delay the tree going to harvest. It doesn't mean that the tree is not going to be viable for a tree to sell. What it means is it just means that now we're taking 12 years to grow a tree. And that's a huge impact on someone that doesn't get paid for 10 to 12 years, right?
With all the rising input prices, Bastine hopes to increase the price by 5% next year. Pratyush Dayal, CBC News, Essex.
Colette joins us now for a quick look at weather. And Colette, an example of these strange conditions was today with, again, these mild temperatures, rather.
Yes, I mean, back up to 10 degrees. I even thought we were only going to get up, around 8 or so. And there we were, right up towards 10 degrees once again. And yes, also contending with, at least in the area, some of those rain showers, but very mild conditions. They're not going to last, though. I'm sorry. I mean, it's not bad for now, but as we head through these overnight hours, the temperature begins to slip off. As we go through tomorrow, that colder air moving in, and that means any moisture left behind. There won't be too much of it, but we will see likely some flurries. A low tonight of 3 degrees, the high for tomorrow, and then it gets cooler with Arctic air moving in after that.
Well, and you'll talk us through what happens even after that later on. Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
Up next, the victim of a home invasion in Ontario is telling a harrowing story about being put on hold when he called 911. He says it happened 4 times while his house was being ransacked and he and his young daughter were held at gunpoint. CBC's Farah Morelli reports.
The frantic moments not long after an armed group allegedly broke into Theo Meadows' house.
So he stuck the gun at me through this hole here, actually put it through the broken glass.
Meadows met at our studios, still afraid to bring people into his home after what happened. That night, as the armed intruders smashed his window, he called for help.
I ran into my bedroom, grabbed my phone. That was when I called 911 for the first time. And as soon as I put the call through, I got a please hold. It was like a pre-recorded ringtone sort of thing. So it was just, or OPP, please hold.
Meadows says he tried calling 911 twice more while the intruders were still in his home. Each time, he says, the same hold message. Meanwhile, the situation became even more frightening.
As I'm telling them where they can go to the closet to find anything valuable, my 5-year-old daughter opens her door and she comes out of her room in her nightgown, just like rubbing her eyes. And this guy takes the gun off of me and puts the gun right up to her head. It was kind of the most desperate, helpless feeling I've ever had. Like, that's kind of the only way to describe it.
And the guy was standing right about here.
The whole ordeal, he says, over in minutes. Meadows says it wasn't until his 4th 911 call, after the group had left, that someone answered.
I mean, at this point, I've kind of completely given up on police response coming to help us, because it's like everything's done.
Emergency? Do you need police, ambulance, or fire?
CBC News has reported extensively on 911 wait times in the city of Toronto. Where Meadows lives is patrolled by Ontario Provincial Police, where 911 calls go to 4 call centres province-wide.
In a statement, the OPP said it couldn't comment on this case as it's an active investigation. When it comes to call centre staffing, it also wouldn't say anything, citing officer and public safety purposes.
But it maintains that of the more than 1 million 911 calls it received last year, 75% were answered within 14 seconds. This advocate says 911 call center staffing remains a problem countrywide.
If we don't sort of take that step and start investing in our public safety communicators, the problem that you're seeing in parts of Ontario, it's not going to get better. And it's probably going to get worse.
While they were breaking in, there's my daughter's chalk set and sandcastle toys.
Meadows says he's sharing his story to push for changes to the service.
All I know is that on the worst day of my life, it didn't work at all.
Farah Morelli, CBC News, Toronto.
On a different note, let's now take a look at how a former Chrysler worker and lifelong metalhead found success as a full-time YouTuber. But as he tells Dawson Chen, life as a content creator is its own kind of grind.
With almost 600,000 subscribers and 144 million total video views, the Spectre Sound Studios channel has provided a livelihood for heavy metal recording expert Glenn Fricker. For the past 10 years, he's posted new videos at least twice a week, entertaining viewers with his cantankerous takes on heavy music, production techniques, and studio gear. But the Tecumseh-based YouTuber recently stepped out of character to announce he needs to take a break from his grueling upload schedule. His wife Julie has suffered a medical emergency, and he's focusing on her recovery. Fricker expects YouTube's algorithm to punish him for the hiatus.
The algorithm hates me. All YouTube wants is people to watch the videos and keep watching. So they'll recommend videos out based on watch time and a whole bunch of other factors and whatnot. YouTube tells us, oh, you can take a vacation, but there's been a lot of cases where people have done that and they've come back and the audience has just evaporated.
YouTube is notoriously quiet about how its algorithm works. The online media giant didn't respond to CBC Windsor's request for comment. Fricker's journey to becoming a social media professional has been an unusual one. His love of metal inspired him to build a home studio in the 1990s and start recording bands. As his skills and reputation grew, hard rock musicians from near and far visited him for the Spectre Sounds touch.
He's got a no BS kind of approach to what he's talking about. He's not afraid to tell you if something is not good. He's lived the life of a metalhead, and now as a metalhead YouTuber, this is kind of what he eats, what he breathes, what he bleeds. Metal music through and through. I would be hard pressed to think of anyone with a greater authority on metal music than Glenn.
But the respect of peers isn't a factor in YouTube's recommendations. Fricker is asking his fans to help keep his channel relevant during his break by continuously running playlists of his content. Despite the need for such tactics, Fricker emphasizes he's grateful for the lifestyle and the audience that YouTube has afforded him.
Thank you so much for all your support. You guys have been absolutely amazing. I can't say enough good things about the people who've done this because they helped me get out of the job I hate, which was Chrysler, and I get to do this for a living. The honest truth is, I mean, this is what I love to do, and I find a lot of joy in what I do.
Fricker isn't certain exactly when he'll return to regular uploading, but he assures Spectre Sounds studio is far from finished with YouTube. Dawson Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
Live look outside there. I hope you got to enjoy the mild temperatures before the dip that's coming tomorrow. When we come back, the relationship between Canada and the U.S. under scrutiny. Stay with us. Welcome back. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has resurrected a days-old comment about Canada becoming the 51st state. The remark surfaced during Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's dinner with Trump in Florida last month. Opposition politicians here are using it to question the government's ability to manage the country's relationship with the U.S. CBC's Ashley Burke has the latest.
After Donald Trump made a late-night jab at the Prime Minister, calling him the governor, one cabinet minister compared it to a sitcom that famously blamed Canada for America's problems.
It sounds like we're living in an episode of South Park.
Around midnight, Donald Trump posted online, "It was a pleasure to have dinner the other night with Governor Justin Trudeau of the great state of Canada," and said he looks forward to continuing our in-depth talks about tariffs and trade, the results of which will be truly spectacular for all.
I'm sure not thinking of Justin Trudeau at midnight, so if he's thinking of Justin at midnight, it's probably a good relationship.
A positive spin after Trump's repeatedly poke fun at Canada. At this Mar-a-Lago dinner last month, Trump reportedly joked about Canada becoming America's 51st state. Days later, he posted this AI-generated image that sparked an internet frenzy, teasing about a Canadian takeover.
We're subsidizing Canada.
Then on Sunday, Trump leaned in more while talking to NBC about what he sees as an unfair trade deficit.
If we're going to subsidize them, let it become a state.
Clearly, he's joking. We're a sovereign nation. A lot more.
Trump's latest jab comes after Trudeau warned yesterday a tariff war between the two countries could drive up costs for Americans.
We will, of course, as we did 8 years ago, respond to unfair tariffs.
Sources say cabinet ministers are considering a $1 billion border plan and possible retaliatory tariffs.
We're doing that work right now, and we will have more to say in due course. Mr. Boulouris, what do you think?
But some NDP MPs question Trudeau's ability to manage Trump.
We can see right now that President Trump doesn't respect Mr. Trudeau, and it worries me.
I don't think Mr. Trudeau's handling the domestic political situation well. I have less confidence he'd be able to do it internationally.
The Prime Minister is expected to speak to premiers tomorrow about Trump and the border. Ontario's premier says the government promised to present a plan laying out its approach to negotiations with the U.S. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
A Canadian who pioneered research in artificial intelligence has been awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics. Geoffrey Hinton is Professor Emeritus at the University of Toronto, where there was a celebration. CBC's Ifil Musa reports.
Referred to as the godfather of artificial intelligence, British-Canadian scientist Geoffrey Hinton was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics today, alongside co-laureate John Hopfield in Stockholm. Here at the University of Toronto, where Hinton once taught, admirers cheered.
We should take every opportunity we have to celebrate great Canadians, especially these times, right? There's a lot of bad news out there.
Aswani Polipaka's family took the day off to celebrate Hinton's groundbreaking research that helped shape AI.
AI is very cool because it's like another human who kind of knows the future.
On behalf of the royals, it's an achievement Hinton admits he never could have predicted, but he says getting here took a lot of perseverance.
This is the result of 50 years ago, having an idea of a problem that needed to be solved and just sticking with it for 50 years, even though most people in the field of AI and computer science said that what we were doing was nonsense.
Last year, Hinton left his role at Google so he could speak more openly about the dangers of AI.
I think there's a chance they'll take control, and it's a significant chance. It's not like 1%, it's much more.
It's something this former colleague recognizes, alongside the potential benefits of Hinton's research into machine learning.
All powerful things are amplifiers, but it's what they amplify that matters. And so they can amplify great good, for example, medical treatment, but they could also be used for bad things, such as autonomous weapons.
Half of Hinton's share of the prize money will go towards boosting Indigenous access to water. Idil Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
Coming up tomorrow on Windsor Morning, Amy Dodge checks in with elementary students in Woodsley, and they're doing something special. Not only have they created an award-winning robot, they're solving problems in the Great Lakes. That's tomorrow, 97.5 FM. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Colette Kennedy is back now for more on weather. And Colette, I got to soak up the mild temperatures today. I went out for a little walk on my break, and it was lovely. I figured I'd do that while I still could.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you did that, and I hope everyone who's watching kind of took advantage of the milder air that we've had in place, because yes, we know all good things have to come to an end, and we are going to be experiencing things kind of changing here over these next 24 hours. The other thing, you know, always to be keeping in mind is like we're a little bit lucky here because there's some heavy rain coming, but it's really going to be kind of to the east of us. So also that it's been mild, but generally drier. Normal high 2 degrees, normal low -5. Today's high again up to 10 degrees and our low above freezing. Very nice to experience that. Things are changing tonight as we slip down to freezing. 7 degrees right now, Sarnia, Chatham-Kent coming in at 5 there. Some of that heavier rain pushing out over Lake Erie and on towards the Niagara region. A few little light showers in the neighborhood, but not a lot of moisture here. There is a lot of moisture, though, to work with this system here, and it's pulling that from the Gulf. And this area of low pressure is kind of moving up towards eastern Ontario, and then that Arctic air coming in, and that's going to really be whipping things up, and we'll find our winds getting quite strong. With the way that's tracking, though, it's why we're doing pretty good for southwestern Ontario. It pushes all that rainfall into eastern Ontario, and there is a rainfall warning towards the nation's capital, Brockville, Cornwall, through that region, 30 to 40 millimeters. We're just talking about a few little kind of showers here and there, and then that changing over to some light flurries. So as I push this forward through time and we go into the day on Wednesday, a cooler start tomorrow, and then, yeah, quite a bit of cloud cover in there and some flurries starting to show up. In fact, some of the winds getting so strong Wednesday night into Thursday that the lake effect from Lake Michigan will push all the way towards southwestern Ontario. Not accumulations, but still getting some of those flurries. You can see the rainfall amount, yeah, just some very light showers. Maybe we'll pick up 1 millimeter or 2 here, Chatham-Kent towards Sarnia and towards Windsor. Those forecast winds, not much to them, and that's why they're having fog issues a bit further east. But once those winds pick up, that's really Wednesday night, Thursday. It's going to become breezy later tomorrow, becomes windy as we go into Thursday. 0 for tonight, yeah, dropping back down to freezing, and then only 3 for tomorrow. And then check out that Arctic air and what it's going to be doing to our temperatures coming up.
It's going to really feel like winter. Thanks so much, and thanks to you all. Have a good night.
Good night.